Hi, my name is Carl Pearson, and this is my video 38, Federal Reserve Ponzi Scheme. I'm an attorney, and I've been fighting for the rights of individuals, homeowners, and small businesses for more than 40 years. Now, during 2010, I'm running for New York State Attorney General as the Libertarian Party candidate. Now, I'm a pretty knowledgeable guy, but the movie I saw yesterday and once again today helps to bring it all together, as well as lead us to a practical solution for communities of the nation's economic problems. The movie is about 2 hours, and it's entitled The Secret of Oz, produced by Bill Still. I'll give you a link to the movie and supporting materials at the end of this video. Learn how the major banks, through their ownership of the Federal Reserve with its power to create money, create recessions and buy mortgaged homes and other assets at artificially depressed prices through foreclosures. The Secret of Oz also makes it clear what needs to be done to correct this. Here are important facts. Money does not have to be based on precious metals such as gold, silver, or diamonds. There isn't enough gold, silver, or diamonds to back all the money needed in our economy. A money based on diamonds, for example, would give the owners of diamonds and diamond mines the opportunity to drive up the price of money and thereby cause wealth to be further concentrated in the hands of those who own and control diamonds. The lesson of the film is that money as a medium of exchange requires no more than acceptance as legal tender, because whatever is used as money is controlled as to the quantity of money allowed to exist. Counterfeiting has to be controlled to prevent unauthorized creation of money and dilution of the authorized money. For 726 years, England's monetary system was based on tally sticks, T-A-L-L-Y-S-T-I-C-K-S, which were carved sticks of wood of various lengths with notches cut into the stick to reflect values in English pounds, with the stick split lengthwise to enable the tally sticks to be compared when returned to the government in payment of taxes through a matching of the carved notches and wood characteristics. Rome, for several hundred years, used coins made of copper or bronze, two readily available metals having no scarcity. Commerce prospered for both Rome and England during the period when government issued fiat money was issued and there was no intrinsic value because of their ability to prevent counterfeiting. Bankers, as owners of most of the gold, convinced England to switch from the tally sticks to notes backed fractionally by gold, with England borrowing the money it needed from the bankers so that England had to pay interest on the money it needed, and the money became a debt of England rather than a debt-free, interest-free issuance of money by England. This put England in the hands of the Bank of England and its owners, particularly the Rothschild banking firm. Today in the United States, the large commercial banks own the Federal Reserve, and the U.S. government, when it needs money in excess of the tax payments it receives, borrows money from the Federal Reserve with interest payments to be made to the Federal Reserve and the major banks that own the reserve. And money is then added to the so-called national debt. There is insufficient money in the system to pay off the interest on the national debt or, of course, the national debt itself. And there is a need for the Federal Reserve to keep increasing the national debt to be able to pay the interest to itself in what is a Ponzi scheme which in any other industry would put the schemers in jail for 40 years or more, but not in the United States. The Secret of Oz points out that the U.S. has had various times when it eliminated the bankers and had the U.S. issue its own money. The U.S. Constitution has one big flaw, however. It does not state specifically that the U.S. has the right to print its own money. It can borrow, create coinage, and pay its own debt. And impliedly, you would say it has the right to issue its own money. Because of this failure, there was room to argue that the nation had to borrow its money from banks, which it has done for most of our history, including the period from 1913 to the present, with one notable exception. Going back, President Lincoln learned that the banking interests in England and other countries in Europe wanted to see America split up with a civil war so that America would not have the credit of a large nation to dominate England and Europe financially. To prevent this breakup, Lincoln paid for the Civil War by having the U.S. issue its own currency called greenbacks. These greenbacks, backed by no gold or silver, were accepted as legal tender by soldiers, munition makers, and the population. Lincoln was assassinated, and the banking powers were able to get the U.S. government to retire the interest-free greenbacks. After great political debate, the bankers won and were able to have, in 1913, the U.S. authorized creation of the Federal Reserve, owned by the major banks, which lend money to the U.S. government, who has to pay interest to the banks for what is no more than fiat money, backed ultimately by the full faith and credit of the U.S., as we have recently seen. As to the $1 trillion given to the banks recently, the U.S. government borrowed that money from the same banks and promised to pay them interest on the loan, and then turned the $1 trillion over to the banks, receiving nothing in return. Our congresspersons either know what's going on and need contributions from the banks and their allies to remain in office, or have no clue what's going on, which qualifies them as well to receive money from the banks to run for office. President John F. Kennedy was probably assassinated for his little-known efforts in bypassing the Federal Reserve and having the U.S. government issue its own, quote, United States notes, unquote, involving no debt and no interest payments. $1 and $5 bills were issued with a red seal on the front to distinguish this currency from the Federal Reserve notes and their blue seal. Kennedy had $10 and $20 denominations printed, ready for issue when he was assassinated. Thereafter, all the U.S. notes with red seals were retired from circulation, so that the only remaining currency was interest-bearing debt of the U.S. government. Clearly, what is in the best interest of the government and the people of the United States is to have the U.S. issue its own currency without debt and without interest payments. This would eliminate the national debt after paying down the existing debt with newly issued debt-free, interest-free money directly by the U.S. As long as this does not occur, the Federal Reserve will be in charge of our money supply and will manipulate the amount of currency available for use to create recessions and depressions whenever they want to enable the bankers to take back the land and other valuable assets anytime they want, such as what is taking place right now through foreclosures of land and business assets. The Federal Reserve and its members are restricting the amount of money available so that there is not enough money to pay debt, buy real estate, and support businesses, with the resulting defaults and foreclosures, during which the land and assets of America are turned over to the bankers. Because our Congress and administration have been elected with the financial support of the bankers, we can't realistically look to Congress or Obama for any solution to the problem. Their hands are tied. They represent the bankers and have the sole function of trying to hide that fact from the voting public, which they do pretty well, since they generally get reelected in spite of how little they do for the public. The solution, it has become perfectly clear to me, needs to take place at the state level. North Dakota is the only state which has its own bank, the State Bank of North Dakota. Its website is worth reading. All monies paid to North Dakota are required under North Dakota law to be deposited in the North Dakota Bank. The bank then uses this bank and its assets to provide financial assistance through other banks, mainly in North Dakota, to finance the purchase of farmland, for agriculture, and for small business. North Dakota has been very successful in this regard, and it is the only state of the 50 which is in the black. The North Dakota Bank is its equivalent of the Federal Reserve. It creates money for use in North Dakota, and the money can be and is deposited in and accepted by all other financial institutions in the U.S. North Dakota has the power as a bank to issue money without being required to pay interest on the money it creates. It is not a member of the FDIC, and the bank's activities are activities of and guaranteed by North Dakota. The solution for the other 49 states seems to be this. Each state should enact a law creating a state bank along the lines of the successful North Dakota Bank. The state bank should then provide financial assistance to every community by having the assets of the community be used to secure loans from the state bank to give the community liquidity. I would suggest that the tax revenues of the community be used to secure loans from the state bank, and that the community issue money against the receipt of invoices for crops, other goods and services sold and delivered or performed in the community, with such additional security being given in turn to the state bank as further security. This would give liquidity to the business people, and it would be a significant improvement on the already successful systems being established in various communities for local currency for use in the local area. With a state bank lending to the community, there would be no need for the local currency because funds from the state bank could be deposited anywhere in any bank in the U.S. I'm running for New York State Attorney General as a Libertarian Party candidate, and I need your help. Please visit my website at carlperson4nyag.com to read more about what can and will be done by me if I'm elected, to make a donation and to volunteer to help me in my campaign. Now, here are the various websites, the URLs of interest, and to search for the video, search for the name of the video, The Secret of Oz, YouTube, and movie, and you'll find it. And I look forward to having you learn what I've just learned. Thank you.